Good morning, everybody. I was going to say good morning, Melbourne, but I just realised that I might have some people watching that are from Melbourne. So there you go. Obviously, with the brilliance of the internet. I'm laughing again because I've got my co-host, JJ, at my feet, knocking my knees down and down. He has his routine now up here. Yeah, when I start going, it's changed a bit. He used to go straight to the couch. Now, he tries to annoy me to get me off this screen because he knows if I get on the screen, I ignore him. So he bowls over my knees, sits down here, and you'll see him in a minute crawling up to that couch. So anyway, let's get into it. Friday, can you believe it? 5 mornings in a row, I've managed to get myself out of my comfy, warm bed and get up and do this broadcast at 9 o'clock. So that has surprised me, I can tell you. I am being a single person and being an ex-shift worker, I've explained this a few times, I go to bed late. I work the same hours. I just do my shift normally from 12 through to midnight. So I probably put in 12 hours a day. But just to do it because of my own boss, I can do the hours I want to do. So, but I've had to get to bed a little bit earlier and get up a little bit earlier. So I'm surprised at myself after years of doing it one way. I'm able to do it. I've got to be honest. So anyway, it's a good sign for this to be ongoing. Talk of ongoing. Time to give you a look at the Melbourne view from my upstairs window. And you can see Port Phillip Bay. It's a bit murkier today. You can see some rain clouds coming over the bay. They'll hit us soon. We haven't had a lot of rain in this winter, to be honest. And this week's been really good. The weather's been fantastic, but cold. But that's the outlook we've got for this coming day. You can see that's the Mornington Peninsula down there. That's across the entrance to Port Phillip Bay, and then you got towards the city, if you can see it. I don't know whether you can. I'll have to organise these windows. We might even see if we can't, at some stage, get us a telescope or maybe even some binoculars for you to have a look through. Don't know if we can do that on the laptop. We'll see. But anyway, that's the view of the bay, and I think we're going to get a bit of rain. Having a look at that, what you just saw there across the bay, that'll hit us in about 5-10 minutes. It comes in. One thing I have learned from living in this place, I never used to live by the bay, obviously, but when the wind hits Melbourne's foreshore, it's crazy. When you live in the inner suburbs, you don't notice it, obviously. But once you live right on the foreshores, like I do now, because I've got an upstairs room, I can see across the bay, and you can sit here and 5 minutes, you'll see the weather coming, and 5 minutes later, it's hitting it. It's crazy how quickly it comes in. So anyway, I think we're in for a bit of wet weather. That's the long story of it. And look, we probably need it. Got to get the dams filled. If you don't get the rain in the winter, that's when you struggle for the thing in the water reserves in the summer, and that's when all the climate change morons come out, and because it's seasonal, all this sort of thing. They don't understand weather. They don't understand seasons, and they've been totally indoctrinated into climate change. Anyhow, so and they're an interesting mob, aren't they? They preach on about climate change, but the one thing that can fix it, if it's an issue, would be nuclear energy. But no, we can't have that either. You've got to have your problem, and I think a lot of it, and I deal with it in my industry, being a sports coach, a basketball coach. There's a lot of victimhood that goes on. Parents want to blame everybody except for their child. It's everybody else's fault. It's never my child's fault. And where 99% of the time, it's exactly that. It's your child's fault. But they don't want to hear it. So I'll have a bit to say about the teachers in a minute. But the one thing I'll be sympathetic with teachers with, having to deal with some of these parents, is if they're like that with me, imagine what they're like with parent-teacher night. And especially with an honest teacher, which gives them honest feedback about the way their kids are going with their homework and their behaviour in class. So I remember back in, when was it? It was in about 95, 96. I actually worked within a school system there for a while. It was a public school system. And even then, I was shocked how much the respect towards teachers had diluted from when I went to school. Like when I went to school, and it was different. And everyone, when I tell them this, they realise how old I am. But I came into the school system when you could still be given the strap for talking in class. And coming from a family of 10, I got the strap all the time. And as you can hear, I did have an annoying voice. And because I'm in a family of 10 and I'm the ninth kid, I learned very early on, if you wanted to be heard, you had to speak up. So I naturally did. So I had a voice that could project, and I always got heard, and I always got in trouble for disrupting the class, and I always got 6 of the best. So for those who don't know, 6 of the best, that is a leather strap. You go up the front, they give you 6 on one hand, and if you've been really bad, you get 6 on the other hand. And the boys back then, the boys, the biological boys, there was no trans back then. We used it as a bit of a toughness contest. So if you're regularly going up to the 6 of the best, you got a reputation as a tough nut. So I wasn't a tough nut, I can tell you that now. But I got a reputation as one because every day I copped it. The teachers would get it. And it was interesting. You got used to the teachers by the way they gave you the strap. The ones you got really fearful of is the ones that hit the strap on the end of your fingers. The one that hit your palms, they were fine. You could take that. It's the ones that hit the end of your fingers, could bend it back. They really hurt. And you weren't allowed to say anything. And you'd have some really sadistic teachers who, if like you let out a cry or something like that, or you actually were in tears, they'd give you 6 more. And then you graduated up into secondary school, where you become a really rebellious little teen, and you graduated from the strap to the cane. So it was probably, for me, year 7, year 8, where they started to phase it all out. So I'm still not convinced that was a good measure, especially with this disrespect we have from our teens and our younger ones in society today. It's all over the net, the disrespect that you have. That was a non-existent thing. We would not dare talk to our parents the way the kids talk to them today. We would not dare talk to our teachers the way the kids talk to them today. We would dare not go down the street and commit the crimes the kids are doing. If I walk around in a machete, I'd broken a house or I stole a car or something, my God, I wouldn't have sat down for a week, maybe longer. Dad would have taken out. And that's one of the sad parts that Pauline Hanson raised this week about men and fatherhood and how they lose access to the children and how the domestic violence, as she said, can be a two-way thing. Everyone's cracked the sads at that, but tell me what's wrong with that statement. There is nothing wrong with that statement. Domestic violence can be a two-way thing. Women can commit violence against men. Now, overwhelmingly, it's the other way, but there is a percentage of violence against men. And not only that, is in the courts, when there's a split, men are denied their access to their children. Now, there's a push from the feminist side that when a female's having a baby, so for example on the abortion, the man has no right to have a say in whether that child of theirs, that's a child of theirs, is allowed to live or die, or whether they have a right indeed in parenting that child. And too many times the family courts comes down on the side of the female, and too many times it comes down the side of a lying female who wants to use her children as a vindictive measure against her ex-partner, whether that be a husband or thing, and they deny them access to it. Now, back in my day, your dad was important into your childhood and how you were raised. My dad wasn't important so much in that he was a loving father. Dad struggled to show his emotions like most World War II veterans did. But in the discipline side of things and keeping the household on the straight and level and making sure all the boys, stayed on the straight and narrow, he was crucially important. And we've got too many young boys now being raised without that. So maybe it'd be interesting to see, for example, and I don't necessarily think there's a connection, but it would be interesting to find out, is how many of the nuttier boys who have all these issues, so for example, the transgender boys, would I get trouble for that saying that? I mean, if you're ready to mutilate your body because you think you're born into the wrong body, I think you've got issues. But you're not allowed to say that anymore. But that's my opinion, so I'll say it. But do they have any issues where they've been denied access, for example, to a strong male role model in their life that could help them through that? that they can look at and they can learn what it is to be a man. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Something you can actually embrace. It's actually a gift in many ways to be born a man, just like you have different gifts for being born a woman. That any side of that wants to debate to mutilate their own bodies, to try and decide that they're better than Mother Nature, or if you are a person of faith in God, I think we're playing with some very evil stuff there, very evil stuff. And, the fact that we have now got governments forcing it upon the wider public is nuts in itself. The fact that we've got people who think that's an acceptable part of society is nuts in itself. I know people in the LGBTQI, it's getting longer by the year, that acronym, they can't stand the trans community either, but they won't say anything about it. And they don't being lobbed in, if you look into what the LBTQI, that's lesbians, LB, I don't even know, what does B stand for? Oh, bisexual. Q is queer. T is trans, and that's where they start to get a bit, between that Q and T, they start getting, I don't know what I stands for, but it's very weird. I looked it up. And the same thing with the plus, so once you get to the QT, it's getting really, don't know. Once you get to the I and plus, it's going, no, I don't want anything to do with it. So a lot of people in the gay community get lobbed in with people they don't relate to as well. So anyway, there is my thing. So that's just a bit of a rant. Might get me in trouble these days because I'm not politically correct. The old woke. Anyway, time for our Bible read. Speaking of things. Good. If it doesn't clear up in a minute, I might have to put the light on here. This coming across all right. Actually, before I do this, let me double check that I'm up and about on X. And I am. Very good. Wonder if I'm making any. I'll have a double check and see if we're making any noise. Yep, we are. Beautiful. All right, so we're good to go. Hebrews, Old Testament, 11:1 through 10, July 24th. Faith. Chapter 11 of Hebrews is the Bible's great portrait gallery of many of the Old Testament's people of faith. Four of them come in today's reading. Well, this will be interesting. To have faith is to be sure of things we hope for, to be certain of things we cannot see. It was by their faith that people of ancient times won God's approval. And it is by faith that we understand that the universe was created by God's word, so that what can be seen was made out of what cannot be seen. Interesting. It was faith that made Abel offer to God a better sacrifice than Cain's. Through his faith, he won God's approval as a righteous man, because God himself approved of his gifts. By means of his faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. It was faith that kept Enoch from dying. Instead, he was taken up to God, and nobody could find him, because God had taken him up. The scripture says that before Enoch was taken up, he had pleased God. No one can please God without faith. For whoever comes to God must have faith that God exists and rewards those who seek him. Glad to hear that. It was faith that made Noah hear God's warnings about things in the future that he could not see. He obeyed God and built a boat in which he and his family were saved. As a result, the world was condemned, and Noah received from God the righteousness that came by faith. It was faith that made Abraham obey when God called him to go out to a country which God had promised to give him. He left his own country without knowing where he was going. By faith, he lived as a foreigner in the country that God had promised him. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who received the same promise for God. For Abraham was waiting for the city which God had designed and built, the city with permanent foundations. I suppose that's a summary of exactly what faith is all about. Believing in something you cannot see, that you cannot prove. Even though, well, there are things you can prove these days. That's the whole New Testament. Before that, you had to have faith, and you still do in many ways. And maybe for people like me, I have faith that there's a God. I have faith that God created everything out here. That's something I chose to believe in from reading the Bible. Other people choose not to believe in it. That's right. And that's actually itself a testament to faith, a testament to God, because he gave us the ultimate liberty. We can live the way we like. We can talk the way we like. We can have the opinions we like, but just have in the back of your mind that ultimately, not in this life, but the next, there will be repercussions. And one of the things we don't get in this life a lot is justice. I was reading yesterday about yet another venue that got firebombed, and they went to court and basically were released straight away, because they pleaded victimhood. And so a person who strove to build a business, had leased a warehouse, had assets in it, had products that he was looking to sell, equipment he looked to conduct his business, that all got destroyed, burnt down. And everyone says, oh, well, he might have insurance. Well, insurance might cover the cost of the damage, but, you do lose 6 to 12 months while you're replacing that, probably longer once it gets through the courts, of your ability to turn over an income. 6 or 12 months with no income in a small business can destroy that business. I know I struggle every year with it. So in the hope that I'm going to finally get my business to a point where it actually becomes a financial boon for me. But if I had someone fire damage things that I was trying to do, what would set me back, especially at my age. So speaking of business, lovely segue into our next thing. We'll look it up here on the thing. But yesterday, every 3 years, the ALP get together for a conference. Right? They've had their 50th conference. Now, this is what came out of the first day. Elbow. Bloody Elbow. So let's give you a look at our mate Elbow and see what he's come up that is going to affect small business in a big way.
I've always understood that while you can write fairness into law, justice depends on the law being upheld. Yet there are still too many of the most vulnerable workers in this country being illegally underpaid because they cannot access or afford the justice that they are owed. Now, that's just wrong, and we're going to fix it. Our government will create the Fair Work Court. I've always understood that when
Elbow says we're going to fix it, we all should be very worried. He doesn't fix anything. He just makes it worse. So a Fair Work Court. We've already got the Fair Work Commission. I've been through the Fair Work Commission. It's not like a court of law, but do we need more courts of laws? Do we need more judges? Do we need another legal system that's set up with a bias? If the ALP is setting up this, he just outlined what it was about. And basically, because every time you got to go through the legal framework, this is what, it all sounds nice, right? But every time you got to go through the legal framework, on either side, you've actually then got to pay the lawyers to defend you. And then you've got to pay everything they've got to go through in preparation for that case. And there's all ongoing costs. And the more of the costs there are, the more it's going to be expensive to you. Now, my bet, or bottom dollar, that the workers are going to be able to do this through some sort of body where there's going to be zero cost, but there's going to be maximum cost to the employer. So the employer will have this weighted in their favour. Well, they've already got fair work. They can already take an employer to fair work. But now an employer who's trying and busting his butt to create these jobs for these people to have so his business can thrive and has to meet already to a plethora of legal red tape and taxes and payments and all sorts of different things. Now they've got another thing to contend with. Some more, the poor old person that just wants to show some initiative and build a business, and they get struck with legal requirement after legal requirement and after legal requirement. It just gets to a point where this is all too hard. So that person is then chased off. And what they will do if it gets too hard here, for example, in mine, if I wanted to, which I don't, by the way, but if I wanted to, I can employ someone now because of the internet from overseas to do my work. And I could pay him at a quarter of the rate that I pay an Australian. Now, everyone bleeds about Australian first. Well, why should I, as a business operator, sacrifice my profits if they're just going to continue to put burdensome legal requirements on me as an employer. I'm going to be facing that in the next 2 years. So I can get, if I wanted to, and you've got to be very careful here, by the way, when you do it, but I get emails every day from people overseas. Every day they just hit my inbox, whether it's website design, whether it's CEO for the search engine optimization for Google. So you're seeing more often on it. For people who want to do your books, your bookkeeping and accounting. So you can hire someone from the Philippines, for example, to do your books, who know our books back to front, and you pay them $7 an hour. Now, $7 an hour Australian for a Philippines person is a lot of money. Over here, it's nothing. For them, it's a lot of money. So, I can get a bookkeeper, do my books from over there, and that's for, you'd be probably paying $35 roughly an hour, 35 to 40 over here. Well, why would you do that when you can pay $7? Especially when you know you're dealing with a legitimate person who can do your books really well. Why would you do it? And this is where also AI is going to come in the next couple of years. AI will be able to do your books for you. So you won't need a bookkeeper. What you'll be doing a lot of, instead of employing people, you will be subscribing into AI because it's going to be cheaper than employing a person. So Albo is going to keep putting on all these ridiculous requirements, and he's going to have his 500 delegates in this meeting, and they're going to cheer on everything they're doing. And Albo is going to puff out his chest, and he's going to get arrogant, which he was doing yesterday, attacking One Nation, attacking the Liberals, attacking the nation of the three. Their favourite line now is the three far-right parties. Far-right is fascism or Nazism. I don't think any of those parties qualify for that. But he just likes to put that tag on a far-right. I actually don't know why, for example, Angus Taylor, Pauline Hanson, and Matt Canavan don't start calling Albo far-left. Play their own game at him. Albo's a far-left nut. Say what he is. He's a Fabian. It's on the public record he's a Fabian, so why not say it? Here's your chance. 3 days. Get out. Find a way. Do a stunt. You're in politics. Look at the leverage Barnaby's got for telling his dog to sit down. He's been in the media now for 3-4 days. People are making memes of it. Come up with a stunt. Do a Trump. Trump comes up with a really crazy thought, puts it on Twitter, and lo and behold, he's in the news for a week. People are talking about Trump. In politics, any news is good news. Well, I wouldn't say any, but most news is good news. And through that, then you can start attacking Albo. So if you listen to me and Ben, it was interesting. Ben had on Tuesday night, Ben had a very good idea and ideas he could do for memes for the dog. He was going to take it to One Nation. Now, they've already put out a few memes. I don't know whether they're from Ben, but Ben had some good ideas, I thought, which would have been terrific. And then allowed to get in front of the media and paint themselves as human, but then get on the front foot and attack a guy like Albo. Albo's not your normal guy. He's not a guy that can. There are certain politicians that can reach out across the screen and grab your attention because they just feel like a guy could have a beer down the pub. So Bob Hawke was famously like that. Paul Keating wasn't. John Howard wasn't. Andrew Peacock a little bit. Tony Abbott a little bit. He's a guy that fought fires and surf lifesaving and all that. So you can see how he went to the Indigenous community. So you can see he was a knockabout bloke a little bit. Probably more than a knockabout bloke because he was into the fitness stuff a little bit more. But when was the last leader we had like that? Kevin Rudd wasn't like that. Julie Gillard wasn't like that. Malcolm Turnbull definitely wasn't like that. Scott Morrison wasn't like that. Peter Dutton wasn't like that. Angus Taylor's actually leading. If Angus Taylor can let go of his and get his party in line where they stopped attacking One Nation, just stopped it. That's pretty easy to do. Guys, stop attacking One Nation. We need to treat them like they are. They're on the centre right with us. We are part of that team. That's the thing that the Liberals can't get over their heads. And the more they attack One Nation, the more irrelevant they're going to become. If they're not already irrelevant, I think what they need. And look, it is sad to see a once great party going down here because the Liberal Party were a force for good for quite some time. But since Howard left, they've lost that ability. So as if they haven't needed a few kickings politically, maybe what they need is to go through the next election and lose their title as opposition party. That in itself would be a massive hit, where if One Nation replaced the Liberals as the major opposition, and you've got Pauline Hanson as the opposition leader in Parliament, that would be a very interesting time. Question time would be a ripper, because you don't know what you would be getting in question time. Question time could be quite funny. So it would certainly shake up the place. But bugger that, we've got to get the ALP out of government, first and foremost. But yeah, they're having their conference. They're going to come up with some radical ideas. They're going to have their little cliques and groups, and they're going to have the right and the left, and they're going to be pushing. So, I mean, the Labor Party, when they say the Labor Party, it's not one major group. You have the left faction, the right faction, you have the crazy faction, you'd have the Marxist faction, the communist faction, and you'd have the ones with some common sense too that would be in there more towards the middle. And they'd be all going. So probably some common sense has already come in, because apparently Albo's written off any change to the flag. So at least we're not going to have that woke battle. And he's probably had too many woke battles already. It'll be interesting. The more they kowtow to for example, the Indian and the Islamic group, how many more of these delegates themselves become Islamic and Indian groups like that now have a say in the political platform? Because what happens after these 3 years, every 3 years, so it's just starts to the lead up. It's the middle of their term, right? So now they start thinking about the next political campaign. So this is where they're much better organised than the Liberals. So they'll start thinking about that, and they'll get their delegates in the news. They'll start pushing different messages to start pushing into that campaign. So one of the things that is on the agenda, for example, is some sort of statement to support Gaza. Shock horror. So, bizarrely, and if you say this, you get pilloried. Bizarrely, after October 7th, somehow Israel, through its own PR, because it should have had a PR campaign ready to counter this. I think Israel went into Gaza thinking the world would be on their side after what happened on October 7th. That's the same mistake that Bush made with 9/11. I don't know why I've got elbows still up there. Stop sharing. Sorry, guys. So that's the same mistake George Bush made out of 9/11. He thought they would have this, the world behind them, and for a while they did. But as that Iraq war went longer and longer, political opinion started to turn. Same thing Trump's facing in Iran. Trump comes out. Trump's got to make a decision. Is he there to mediate this thing, or is he there to go all in and win that war? That's what he's got to decide. I mean, the other option is to get out now without anything, and that would be a political disaster. So he's got himself caught in a bit of an issue, Trump, and he played it too smart by half. This 4D chess. When he had what I believe Iran on its knees, and then he paused the fighting so they could negotiate a peace. So Iran was never going to negotiate a peace. He should have just kept going until they're on their knees and they're pleading for unconditional surrender. That's what he should have done, and I think that's what he's trying to do now. But he's lost 10 weeks. He could have had them at the point where they were defeated now. And I've got no doubt America has the technological and military capabilities to bring Iran to its knees without putting boots on the ground. And now boots on the ground, so there's going to be some people, if you put in a SEAL Squad 6 or something, they'll call that boots on the ground. No, it's not. That's what those guys are trained for. They're put on boots on the ground all over the globe. So we're talking about putting on hundreds of thousands of troops, 500,000 troops, and actually invading the place. I don't think there is any need for that. Iran's got plenty of enemies. So, for example, the Kurds. So you could bomb the absolute crap out of them while you give the Kurds the capability. And apparently they tried this, but something torpedoed it, to give the Kurds the capability to take on the IRGC, the military arm of the thing. So anyway, he's in a bit of a quagmire. And because he's in a quagmire, the world's in a big quagmire. People like me are in a bit of a quagmire, because what will happen if this war ramps up, petrol prices will go up again, and we'll all be back where we were 2 months ago. and we've finally come through that. So Trump has got to pull a rabbit out of the hat, to save all that from happening. So, oh God, it's 9:30 already. Time to look into, there's my rant for the day. It's a bit hard to get a rant up on daily. Maybe I'll get a bit more sympathy for the journalists, which I don't too much of. So anyway, let's go through. I haven't done a bit of thing. We'll have a quick look through our, what am I doing? In the wrong spot. More bookmarks. Should go through my notifications. Eureka Conservative. Interesting. You get a lot of conspiracy theories that planes didn't fly into the building. So at 9/11. Now, if you had have told me, even though we all saw it live on TV across the globe, and people with their phones and cameras took multiple angles of it, you listen to conspiracy theorists and planes never hit the building. Now, if you tried to sell me that there was planned demolition, maybe that's something I could sympathetic to. But look, I've got to be honest, I'm sort of the person, that's 25 years ago, I'd rather move on. But if people can bring out definitive proof instead of a conspiracy theory, I'll definitely be open to listen to that. But what this one did for me, it just showed multiple angles, different angles, because people keep showing you clips where there's just the explosion and not the plane. Right? So here's another angle. There's the plane. There's the explosion. People try and tell you it's not true. That's two angles. Here comes a third angle. Pardon the language. Terrible event. Fourth angle. People are trying to say that's just made up. Here's a sixth angle. You can just see it to the right coming in. There you go. Sixth angle. It's on the frame from all these clips. Seventh angle. So that's 7 different angles, 7 different people with 7 different cameras. Eighth. Here it comes. Eighth. What a horrible day. Change the world. Help bring about what we're all living through today. And this is where a lot of people lost a lot of trust in our governments, our media, the spin. And at this point, like I said before, at that point, everyone was behind America, behind George Bush, behind them, and they wanted to get everyone wanted revenge against whoever did it. But bizarrely, not long after that, it all became about Iraq, when there was no real proof. And in the end, it was actually Saudi Arabian people flying those people into the buildings. And if you want conspiracies over the others, then that's something you've got to deal with. Here's an interesting one, Sarah. They've come up now with PDS, the Pauline Derangement Syndrome. And I reckon that's great. This is a great clip of it. Have a listen. Oh, sorry. I'm not sharing. Oh, my God. I do this all the time. Sorry, guys. I'm not sharing. I'll show you that clip of 9/11. I think that's an important clip because that's what's got us here today. That's why I'm showing it. And I'll have a little bit more to say on it there. But we'll show you the Pauline Hanson clip, Sarah Hanson Young, and what they're calling PDS, Pauline Derangement Syndrome. I think this is hilarious. Oh, God, I'm trying to get into it. Oh, my God, I've just lost it. Listen to it. They're so funny.
Really what Pauline is trying to do is tear down democracy. She's not patriotic. She hates who we are. She hates Australia's history. The country used to be a certain way when, of course, we all know that's bullshit. And I fucking love this country. Pauline Hanson is not a patriot. She's a vandal. It's cultural vandalism. And they shouldn't be called One Nation. The One Nation Party. They're the Hate Nation.
Oh, Hate Nation. That's coming from the Greens.
Pauline Hanson's Hate Nation Party. She's not a patriot. She's a vandal. Pauline Hanson's vandalising One Nation Hate Party. She's a vandal.
And they had to have that dog's theme at the end. Oh, my God, it's so funny. Hate party, the hate party. God, she swears for a senator. I mean, I can swear. I'm not a senator. Now, what? No, Prime Minister, this guy's always got 5 minutes. That's something else. That's something else. AI breach. Now, listen to this one. This is one of the biggest problems we have. I'll come back to that 9/11 thing later because it leads into something else, but we'll do a bit of fun with this. This is a white liberal woman, and just read this. Liberal white woman says she's converting to Islam after hearing a call to prayer over a loudspeaker. These women are literally oppressing themselves. Listen, look at her body language here and a reaction to the call to prayer. Crying at us. What the hell is going on with white liberal women? Liberal, for those you don't understand, in America, that's a leftist woman. What the hell? They cause so many problems. But she wants to convert to a faith that oppresses women from an ideology, the Christian Western civilization, that has had feminism shoved down our throats for 50 years, gained all these sorts of freedoms to where they are more protected than men. And she wants to give all that, to wear a burqa, a face veil, to not be believed in court when she screams rape, because they don't. I mean, any woman with the brain, any human being with the brain would understand that if you convert to Islam, you're actually, like it says in the clip, you want to be oppressed. Liberal women, they're my nuts. And we didn't have a lot in here. So Tucker Carlson, what was that about? That's something different. First People Assembly of Victoria, we covered that yesterday. So here's the 9/11 clip. Sorry, guys, for not showing this. It just shows the different angles. I'll tell you, because I've had several. The reason I'm showing this, I've had several people. Again, let's have a look at it. We'll count the angles that we've got. So it's a good clip on this one. So there's one. Pardon the language in it, but naturally enough, people are expressing that opinion. Here's two.
Holy shit!
Holy fuck! All different angles, all different phones, all different people. There's a plane flying in the building. 4. This one's a bit out of this BBC coming up right. There it is. No, just down there stick.
Wow.
That one gets used a lot to say there's not a plane. Here's another one. 7. Clearly plane, clearly flying a plane, clearly explosion. 7. There it comes on the left. 8. Must have been frightening to be on that plane. There's a passenger. So that passenger's on that plane going to that building. What a horrible way to die. 8. My dog's cracking it. And I think that's the last one. So there's 8 different angles. Now, the reason I raise that is I've seen clips, and you get into arguments on the clips because, I sat there live. They telecast that second plane live going into that building. We all saw it, and we all saw the replays, and went on for years. Yet there's Gen Zers who say it's all a conspiracy. Now, there could be some conspiracies. Like I said before, if you're trying to convince me that there'd been explosions put in the building, because it does, the way the buildings come down, I'll grant that's suspicious. And the Tower 7, whatever they call it, the way it came down, I think, is also a bit curious. But there'd be people that can. I've seen documentaries that both explain it, both on the positive and negative, so to prove that it was legitimate the way those buildings came down, and also to prove it was illegitimate. I don't think we'll ever really be like JFK. We'll never really know the full truth. But one truth that you can be sure of is a plane got flown into that bloody building, and the world changed. And it's where not Gen Z, but the millennials and Gen X and the boomers, we all lost faith in our media. We lost faith in our politicians. The conspiracy mantra became a big thing after that. And because of that event, we've had the endless wars since then. This is why that was the beginning of the endless wars. Endless wars is a nonsense term, by the way. I mean, ever since Cain killed Abel, we've had war on this planet. So wars just happen. That's part of a human's nature. So to say you're not in endless wars, is America in endless wars? Yeah, because after World War II, they became a superpower and they decided, hey, this is pretty good. We're the strongest military on the planet. We're going to stay that way. And in many ways, we should be grateful for it, because if they didn't, this world would probably be a bit crazier than what it is currently right now. Now, have they got too much power? I don't know. But I'd rather have faith in the Yanks than have faith in the UN. I'd rather have just faith in Australia, to be honest. So, but that is where all the crap we're dealing with now, all the globalism, all the New World Order, all that stuff, it's all originated from that event. So it's been a crazy ride for all of us who are old enough. Like when that happened, when was that? 2001. So I would have been about 38, So I remember at basketball the next day we had a minute's silence, and that went on for a few weeks, and we're all just shocked what happened. We didn't know, just the images of the buildings that had come down and clearing it out and all that. It was a ridiculous thing that one human being can do that to another, however it came about. So sometimes I'm always of the opinion the simplest reason is always probably the most accurate. And I think a group of terrorists hijacking planes and flying them into a building is probably accurate. You can look at all those other things and go, yeah, same thing, for example, with Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson was a nut. He was a trans nut. He didn't like Charlie Kirk for something he'd been saying, so he thought, well, I'll just shoot him. Now, in America, that happens all the time. Look at England, that female politician from the Reform Party. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. 5 episodes. Who got murdered this week simply because of her politics. And some idiot walked into her house and hit her on the head 21 times with a hammer. That's going to kill anyone. And this poor darling, she was great. I can't remember her name. I'll find it out. But she had some great politics, and she was a lovely lady. I mean, she wouldn't hurt a fly. I'll put UK politician murdered. And Whitcomb. Now, I'll see if I can get up a video here that we can share, because this is the person that this bastard decided to murder in this horrible way. I'll see if I can get up and just to give you an example of how crazy this world is. And it'll come to our shores eventually. And God protect. I'm going to show you her Oxford speech. They have these Oxford Union speech. This is Anne Wickham's Oxford Union speech. At the Oxford Union free speech. Now you tell me if this woman deserved to be murdered by getting hit around the head with 21 hammer strokes. I'll see if we can get it. Come on. Guys, okay. We'll see. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my sharing here. Stop sharing. There you go. You'll have my ugly face. So let's get this up. Just shameful that this woman could be a victim of such a heartless crime. Listen to her speech. We won't show all of it, but we'll show a bit of it. She's a funny lady. She didn't deserve this.
Hello, Oxford Union. Here I am, right back where I started from 50 years ago. And do you know what the subject of my first paper speech was? It was censorship. Plus ça change, as Juncker might say. Now, tonight is crucial. This is not just any old Thursday debate at the Oxford Union. There was a moment in the past when what happened here had reverberations round the world. And that was when this House decided that it would not fight for king and country. And it gave immense comfort to a rather nasty regime. Yes. And tonight it is crucial that this House, this bastion of freedom, this renowned historical organisation that has always been devoted to free speech, does not tonight go the other way and make a decision in favour of censorship. What we are debating here tonight is crucial. Now, I speak with feeling. When I was growing up, it was in the immediate post-war period when people had lost sons, husbands, fathers to the Nazis. They'd lost limbs and faced a life of disability. They had lost homes. They had lost them to a vile regime called National Socialism. And yet, Oswald Mosley and Colin Jordan and other such charming souls were allowed in law to hold their rallies in this country. You think how much offence, how much hurt, how much insult that caused to people who had made such major sacrifices. But the devotion to free speech and the recognition that we had spent 6 years fighting for liberty led us to believe that it was preferable to have free speech than not to be offended.
And I'll stop on that note. It goes for about 11. Does that strike you as a person that deserved an arsehole because he just chose he was a leftist dickhead? And the violence always comes from the left, doesn't it? A leftist took out Charlie Kirk. All right? A leftist had a crack at Trump. A leftist now has walked into this lady's home while she was eating lunch and hit her on the head 21 times with a hammer. For what? She's just, you can hear from there, she was a wonder. We can watch a lot of her speech. She did not deserve this end. And to the ALP and to others, if we had a similar, like if Pauline Hanson, I can guarantee, I hate saying this, and I pray to God that he's looking over her, because if Pauline Hanson met the same fate, there would be many on the left, and we showed you just one then, in Sarah Hanson Young, that would be out celebrating it. We would have people on the streets celebrating Pauline Hanson being killed. Now, let's hope and pray to God that never, ever happens. But I hope they've got some security around her, because the closer we're getting to election, my fear is some nutty leftists will take it upon themselves, just like they did with this lady, and commit a horrible crime. And there won't be What you'll get from Albanese and Sarah Hanson-Young and all these, you'll get all these platitudes, how we can't have violence in our society and all that. Where behind the scenes, they'll be going, oh, beauty, she's gone. Got no doubt about it. And they will be the ones that are inciting it. You heard what Sarah Hanson-Young said. They're the hate nation. They call them bigots. They call them Nazis. They call them racist. They say they've been talking all week how, she wants the White Australia policy back. She never said that at all. That's just an out-and-out lie. But they don't care. They don't care that these lies could lead to violence against Pauline Hanson or somebody else from One Nation. The left are vile, vile people. They will say and do anything to keep power, even if it means leading to the death of someone on the opposition. They don't care about that. And I raise her as an example. We've all got to be very careful. And I don't want anyone on the left to be killed. We've all got to be very careful on our language and our motivations and what we're doing. But at the same time, the left also leave you no option but to fight back. They're changing our country for the worst. And I wanted to end on that today because that's one of the motivators between me getting on here in the morning. If I can just reach out to a handful of people and then they can reach out to a handful of others. If you don't want to get out, and this is where it's really important for you people that follow me, if you don't want to get out and speak, share my podcast because I'll speak on your behalf. All right? If you want me to raise some certain subjects, send them through. I'm not going to say I'll raise every subject because not every subject I'll agree with. But I tell you what I will do is I'll have people on who can prove to me they will debate and talk intelligently and respectfully, and I'll have them on and they can come and put forward their points of view. But I'm not going to put forward their points of view on their behalf. They need to come onto the podcast. Now, today was supposed to be my empty seat interview. We're going to start that from next Friday. So Fridays are going to be empty seat Fridays. Sorry, I couldn't get it done today. It has been a busy week, especially with these podcasts. I hope I keep using that excuse because if you keep hearing me saying that, my business is actually going all right. It's going to be pretty hard where I say, I haven't had much to do this week. That means that, I'm not busy. I'm not doing a lot of things. So we'll see how we go. Sorry, I just got an interesting email. So that's it from me for today and this week. Have a fantastic weekend. If you've got any ideas or thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And the more we can reach out, this is not about me getting clicks. This is more about reaching out and bring conservative minds and voices together. So if you are on the centre-right side, if you're a conservative, if you're concerned like me what's going on in this country, and you want an avenue to push back, let's use my podcast to push back. I'm happy to do that now. Jumped in at the deep end. We've got 6 podcasts a week. 5 Monday through to Friday at 9 a.m. and 1 on Tuesday nights at 8. We keep the morning ones to strictly an hour as best we can. And the Tuesday night, we just go for it. If we'd spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, that's what we'll do. All right. I don't think we're going to go 5 hours on the Wednesday night the Tuesday night because I've got to get up the next morning to do this one. So we might go a bit hard, might be a bit more stricter on how long people can speak. But it'll be our longer one. So we'll give it a maximum 4-hour run, but we don't want to be going 4 hours. But if we do, we let that conversation on Tuesday night, we let it go and we let it lead us to where it's going to take us. So that naturally means we're going to have a longer podcast. But those podcasts have been great. If you can listen into them, we have actually had some really good guests. And all the contributors, if you want to call it that, sounding like a media thing. So especially our Big J crew of Ben, Daniel, and Rami. Would be nice to get some female perspective in there. They've been terrific with some of the ideas we come out. We've talked about all sorts of situations that cover it. So try to get a look at that. And I don't know whether you've got time in the week, but maybe get on the podcast, have it on in the background, put the earphones on, listen into what we're talking about, and maybe even become a contributor yourself. So because we want to save that flag in this country. All right. So for all of you for the weekend, God bless you. God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless, for me and JJ, your pets. And God bless this country. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next Monday, 9 o'clock.